Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for joining us here at She Conversations. I'm Tanya,
And I'm Ashley.
and we have an exciting topic today for you. A topic that's near and dear to my heart. We're going to talk about self love, and we're also going to talk about the imposter syndrome. I'm excited about it. But I guess before we do all the formalities, I guess we should check in with each other. Like, how was your week?
Um, my week was okay. I'm glad it's the end of the week, but it was okay. I feel like just sometimes it feels like I'm just going through the motions of
Mm-hmm.
life,
Yeah,
and that's it.
that's how I feel too. Like sometimes just on repeat. Like
Yeah.
always doing the same things over and over and over again. But
Yeah.
I can identify.
Mhm.
But yes, so back to our topic. Again, we have a expert. I'm going to call her an expert here with us to dive into this topic. I'm going to let her introduce herself, but I'm just going to say a little bit about her beforehand. Our presenter or our expert this afternoon is Miss Lisa Parker. I've known Lisa probably for over 20 years now. It's been quite some time. Um, she's always been gifted. She's always been like a huge advocate, community advocate. Um, she's knowledgeable. She's an entrepreneur. She's a friend. So I'm really pleased that she was able to be here with us this afternoon. But without delay, I'll let Miss Lisa Parker introduce herself and tell us, a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Tanya. My name is Lisa Parker. I am the founder and executive director of Epiphany Coaching and Training, and we are a faith-based, community-based organization that provides capacity building assistance and education and awareness to the community about mental health and trauma. Our goal is to make mental health a regular conversation, to allow people to have easy access to resources, specifically those resources in our communities, and to equip our community members, our faith based organizations to be able to be that first point of contact. So people are comfortable, people feel like they're seen, and they don't have to deal with a lot of stigma and shame when they're going through those moments where they may not feel mentally great, but not able to really put a word to how they're feeling. So our goal is to make sure those resources are available, that people know about organizations and programs like yours at She, and the work that's being done in the community so that they don't feel afraid or feel alone.
Mhm.
Hmm. So how long have you been in the public health field?
Oh my gosh, 28 years.
Wow.
Wow.
And
Wow.
started as an outreach worker and up to my recent position as a public health advisor for the federal government.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice. And then for, our listeners who don't know, Lisa, along with Cicely, were very instrumental in
Hmm.
our She Lives project as far as facilitating some of our workshops on the topics that we're going to
Hmm.
be discussing today, self-love, imposter syndrome. So, you've done a lot for our little small
Oh, we
organization.
appreciate
So
it.
we really appreciate you.
Hmm.
So I guess we can jump in
We can.
to our conversation today. And so, imposter syndrome, I know we hear a lot. Well, for me, I'm starting to hear this term
Hmm.
like a lot more these days. Like, I turn on podcasts, I listen to the radio, and people are talking about imposter syndrome. But for me, it's not something that I was really familiar with,
Hmm.
like a year or maybe even 2 years ago.
Hmm.
So, for the folks who are listening who may not be familiar with imposter syndrome, can you tell us what that is or what it looks like in your experience?
Sure. So, imposter syndrome is when we feel like we're not who we are. Basically, it's those moments where we work so hard to accomplish something, whether it's in our professional life, our personal life, or even in our spiritual life, where we really done the work to accomplish things, but we still feel like we're a bit of a fraud.
Mm.
Like somebody's gonna find out I'm not quite as smart as they think I am, or in a relationship that maybe I'm not as loving or as kind or nurturing as they think I am. In a lot of cases, it's our own internal thoughts. It's our lack of, I don't want to say respect, but our lack of appreciation and self love for who we are, and us not giving ourselves the credit we deserve because we have done the work. We had the student loans to prove that we deserve the positions that we work towards. We have beautiful families and relationships, and even in our faith, we celebrate our faith on a regular basis and we advocate and talk about those things. But that little thing within inside of us that sometimes says we're not good enough or we're not smart enough or we don't measure up to other people is typically what imposter syndrome is.
Mm. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that hits deep.
Yeah, it do.
I'm sitting here having flashbacks to the many times I felt that way.
That's
But
what I'm sitting there thinking. I think this kind of resonates with all of us. I think we're all have been in a position where we feel inadequate or feel insecure
hmm
in what we bring to the table and how do you measure up compared to someone else. And I mean, I know I have.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah, I
that's.
agree. Even with this podcast, like even
Mm-hmm.
to this
Yes.
day, as we sit here, I'm like, is what we're doing, is it going to be good enough? Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, like how do I look, or did I say that right, or that didn't sound right coming out my mouth? How are people going to like pull that apart? So
And that's really where it came from, was me stepping into the role of being an entrepreneur and venturing out and putting forth the work that me and my partner Cicely do, but also in professional roles that I've had, being in upper management, being a part of federal government in those roles that I exist in. It's always the, am I supposed to be in this room with these people?
Mm-hmm.
And am I
Mm-hmm.
supposed to say
Mm-hmm.
this or do I just sit and not say anything? So we all, men and women, but mostly it hits us, like you said, it hits us a lot deeper because we have to be great just to be good.
yeah,
So it's something we all have dealt with at some point.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I can talk about this one
hmm
probably all day because I'm trying to tell you from the
hmm
podcast to work to all of that. I know with myself, I tend to, like, if I feel uncomfortable, I'll tend to back up and I won't say anything. I tend to do more observing than actually talking. Um, but yeah, mm, let me go to the next question. Listen, um, so what are the common signs of the imposter syndrome that you've seen in Black women?
It varies from woman to woman. For some of us, as you said, some of us, when we're feeling in our imposter space, we may step back and not necessarily step up. We may allow other people to take the lead on projects that we're very much capable of handling and speaking about. For some women, it turns into depression because we're not feeling comfortable enough to show up as our authentic selves. It creates moments of anxiety. I'll say for me, it shows up sometimes as anxiety where I have to calm myself down and remember that you did the work. You're supposed to be here. So it can show up in a lot of different ways. In intimate relationships, it may be lack of affection towards your partner, towards your children. In our faith walk, it may be not really participating or being as active in demonstrating how we praise and worship. So, depending on a woman and whatever circumstance she's dealing with, it can show up in a lot of different ways.
Okay.
Yeah. And one thing that I learned from one of Cicely's sessions that she did with the young ladies is that there's different types of imposter syndrome. Can you share a few? And can you fit more than one type? I guess.
We all fit more than one type because we kind of vacillate at times. So there's the expert that part of us, or that woman that feels like she has to know everything. She will overplan and she will over process and will overthink sometimes. There is the self care person who will just take care of everybody because she feels like that's how she shows up and that's what people expect of her. There is the one that doesn't know how to ask for help and will kind of take on that superwoman cape where she will do absolutely everything for everybody, again, simply because something in her tells her this is the role that she's supposed to play. And sometimes we vacillate
Mhm.
between all of those categories, again, depending on what our families need, what our job needs, again, even again in our personal relationships, how we show up with our girlfriends, we play those roles. So we all can fit one specific category, but we can go back and forth depending on what we're dealing with.
Well, that's good to know because I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
wait a minute, I'm that person.
Uh-huh.
I'm that
That's
too.
it.
And I was that yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I guess there's like no time limit. Like you stay, I don't know if this makes sense, but there's no certain amount of time you stay in one. Like you can be this person or this type like in the morning and then this type and later on in the day. So
Because
it just
we're
changes.
multifaceted and our days don't stick to a schedule, so to
Mhm.
speak. So again, sometimes depending on what's happening and how we feel like we have to show up, or even what our environment is dictating to us. This is how we need you to be present.
Mm,
We can go back and forth, or we can be steadfast in that just one role. But in most cases, we move about the day switching
switching.
roles and switching lanes, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So, do you think that some of this may have to do with like our upbringing or maybe a past experience that kind of brings on this kind of, I don't want to call it imbalance, but um, this imposter syndrome?
In most cases, it is a part of a learned behavior. It's not something I don't believe that we naturally just have those insecurities, but a lot of times it is the environment that we grew up in, the examples that we saw in our mothers and our grandmothers, or the women that we were raised around, or for the men, even the men that they came in contact with. So a lot of it is sometimes those inner conversations or those things that were fed into us that make us feel like, again, for me to just be good, I have to be great. And to be great means I have to control it, or I have to have my hands on everything, or I have to take care of everything so that nobody knows that I really don't know what I'm doing. So I have to overcompensate for it. So it can be those lingering experiences from our childhood, things we've seen in our family that contribute. And then just again, our growing up and our life experiences, being in workplaces that aren't necessarily reflective of who we are specifically as Black women,
Mhm.
being in positions of leadership that, again, typically we may not see us in those roles, but to be in those positions and in the room and at the table and still feel like, do I deserve to be here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so having these, these insecurities, like, of course, is draining mentally, physically. So, what self care practices, would you recommend, or what role does self care play in overcoming imposter syndrome?
It's a major role. We have to learn to celebrate who we are. We have to learn that it's okay for us to be proud of our accomplishments and not look at it as us bragging or being boastful, or that we're um, being negative towards another woman, because we celebrate who we are. And I think the narrative of, women being proud of themselves has turned into a thing where it's almost you feel embarrassed if you say, I did this or I accomplished this. So we do have to get back to a space where we recognize it's okay to enjoy the fact that you graduated and you have a degree. It's okay for you to enjoy your success as an entrepreneur. It's okay for you to celebrate those achievements, and it's okay for you to take care of yourself in that process. If that means my celebration is a weekend away and I'm going to treat myself to a spa day, then I'm going to do that. If it's nothing more than I'm just going to post on my social media that I accomplished this thing, it's okay to do that. And I don't think we hear that often
Mhm.
enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, I think that's important that you said that because I think sometimes we're our worst critics,
Hmm.
and then we don't know how to celebrate ourselves because we feel like it'll be taken the wrong way.
Right.
Yeah.
We feel like people like she thinks she all that, or whatever may be said. So we find it difficult to do so. But yeah, self love, self care, all of that is extremely important.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Extremely. Can you tell us how self love can influence your personal judgment of self?
It can play a major role because with self-love and not loving ourselves, we sometimes have that internal track playing, almost like music in the background. Like we hear it but we don't really hear it, but we're aware of it being there. So a lot of times when we don't practice affirming ourselves, when we don't celebrate even our small victories, when we don't appreciate or we don't receive a compliment, when people take the time to say you did something great or you look good today, or when we shy away from those things, a lot of times that is us not being able to affirm ourselves. So we have to get better with accepting compliments. We have to make sure that, again, even if it's just you get in your car and say you did great today. That presentation was amazing. We have to get in the habit of celebrating and acknowledging when we do things well, and not be afraid to accept the compliments or feel uncomfortable because people see us for who we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's important that you said that, but also understanding that your value isn't necessarily tied to your accomplishment either.
Right.
Like, so even if you fail, if you do a bad job, like, it's still okay.
Right.
Like, giving yourself that grace to make mistakes and to know that you'll grow and you'll be better from it. It's
And
like that's part of self love as well.
And that's not something we often give
Yeah,
ourselves as
yeah.
grace. So it's important that you said that we remember the same kindness and the same love and grace that we would show to our best
Mhm.
girlfriend, to the people we
Yeah.
love. We have to remember to practice that on ourselves as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's funny that you said it because I was reading this book and it was saying some of the things we say to ourselves are things that we wouldn't even say to other people.
Right.
Like we look in the mirror at ourselves, like, oh my gosh, look at my hair and look at that on my back, and well, I look a mess. And but those are things you wouldn't even say to
You
somebody
would.
else. You wouldn't even. But we say all of that internally to ourselves, and yeah, we definitely need to be kinder
Yeah.
to ourselves.
And I think the part when you said about accepting compliments, I didn't
Mhm.
realize until recently that's something I struggle with. It
I
could
do.
be the smallest thing.
Yeah.
Somebody can say, "Hey, your shoes are cute," and I'll be like, "These cost me $10. I got them from the Walmart bin or something like that." And somebody was like, "Sometimes you could just say thank you.
Mhm.
Like you don't
Mhm.
always have to follow up with something. Just say thank you."
Yeah.
And a lot of that is because, again, we don't allow ourselves to see ourselves as other people see us. Other people look at us and see beauty, and we will, like Tanya said, we'll pick apart that one little hair that's out of place, and that'll throw everything
Mhm.
off. Or I got a little scuff on my shoe, and like you said, it'll be like, oh no, not these. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
we do have to, again, show grace and kindness to
Yeah.
ourselves, and sometimes just a simple smile and a thank you is suffices, and it's okay for us to accept other people acknowledging us.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's really important. Like, I feel like I'm gonna have to leave today and go home and do some work and pull out
Mhm.
a self-love book and read it and do all that stuff because it's a thing that you're constantly working at or working through every day.
Mhm.
I know earlier you talked about ways we can show ourselves self-love. So, are there some other things that we can do whether they're small or just really grand, that we can do to just.
Something simple is just taking a walk sometimes, getting outside, looking at the fall. Now, this is my favorite time of year to just kind of walk. So, just going walking, giving yourself some time to clear your mind. If you are a bubble bath girl, you can go to the dollar store, get some scented candles, set up your own bathroom, and give yourself that half hour where you're like, you know what? Everybody's fine, everybody's good. I can go and give myself a pedicure or a manicure. So I think self-care has been blown up into, though you have to fly away and you
Yeah.
have to
Mm-hmm.
go to a beach, and you really don't. It's
Mhm.
any self-care is anything that makes you feel good.
Mhm.
Even if it's as simple as you just wake up in the morning and play your favorite songs, or you have a favorite scripture verse and you just read it, or you have a book that you enjoy and you make time to read chapters. So self-care really is anything that makes you feel good, that helps you feel like you really, like you matter.
Mhm.
Like my time is my time, and it's okay for me to have at least this 30 minutes that I sit and read a couple chapters, or I sit and watch my favorite TV show. So self-care doesn't have to be, if you're in a financial position where you can kind of fly away for a couple days, absolutely do that. But if you're like the rest of us, where budget may not really be there, again, it can be little teeny things you do. Your favorite holiday coffee.
Mhm.
If that makes you feel good, that's a way to celebrate yourself and show self-care.
And I'm glad you said that because I feel like I started doing that, like the small things, because I'm like, I can't, like you said, I can't jump on a plane and fly to wherever or whatever beach. But it's like some days, like if I'm off, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna wake up. It's early. I'm gonna go to Target. Ain't nobody gonna be there. I'm gonna walk around, just and not be in a hurry because I feel like most of the time when I go to Target, I'm always in a rush. So I'm like, just take my time and just look, just browse.
And
And so that
that's
actually made me feel
self-care.
good.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, do you have any tips for someone that may be struggling, like with their identity, like really finding their voice when they're actually in a room, where they feel like they don't fit in? Do you have any tips for them?
From personal experience, a lot of times it is, and I know this might sound crazy, but it really is remembering who you are,
Mm.
and remembering that you did do the work, and that you did study, or you did prepare, and that you're ready for this moment. I think there are moments where we pray for something and we want the opportunities, but then when they come, we shy away from it and we forget that, no, I really did put in 20 plus years to get to this moment or to have this opportunity. So a lot of times it sounds very simple. You have to take a deep breath and you have to breathe and step outside of your comfort zone. And just again, remember, you are prepared, you are capable, and you wouldn't have been invited in the room or at the table if you weren't qualified. So sometimes we have to just step back from the moment and take in, like, if I wasn't prepared or I wasn't ready for this, I wouldn't be here. So
Mm-hmm.
it's the self-talk.
Yeah.
It's the saying those
Yeah.
prayers, it's that small meditation, it's the taking a deep breath. It's again affirming who you
Mm-hmm.
are and affirming that, again, I'm ready for this moment, and I don't have to be afraid. I don't have to be perfect. I just have to show up.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
It's important, sorry, that you said that because, yeah, that positive self talk comes from within because you may not get it on the
Right.
outside from somebody else. So you have to have or hear that voice within yourself.
Right.
So, yeah, that's important.
Yeah. No, that is, and that, like I said, that hit deep for me. And I guess, like, what resources, like, I know I joked earlier about, after this going to get a self-love book or anything, but is there anything you recommend for, if someone wants more information on self-love or just, navigating through, situations that we talked about earlier? Are there any other podcasts or any books or anything like that that we should read?
Of
Or
course.
any events you're hosting,
Events?
maybe. Who knows?
Well, of
Anything.
course, the best one, Michelle Obama's Becoming book, is an amazing book. Also, the Black Girls Mental Health podcast.
I listened to that.
That is an amazing
Mhm.
podcast. Tracy Ellis Ross, I believe she wrote a book a year or so ago that also speaks about her personal journey, but you can reflect back on it and you can gain something from it. And as Tanya said, Epiphany typically hosts community events. We do have one coming up on November 23rd where my partner Cicely is going to finally step into her greatness and launch her One Village initiative, which again will work with the men and families. But throughout the day, we will have opportunities to talk, to network, to allow other vendors such as you ladies to come share information. But I think the biggest thing you can do is find a network of people that feel good to your spirit.
Okay.
Find those girlfriends, those guy friends, those people that affirm you, and don't be afraid to accept the compliments. Don't be afraid to talk about what you've achieved or even what you didn't achieve. And know that, like Tanya said earlier, even if it didn't go perfect, the important thing is you still showed up and you
Yeah.
were still in
Mhm.
the room and you still made your presence felt.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
This is amazing. I feel like, Lisa, we can sit here and talk to you all day about this. I mean, we may have to, like, on the side,
Yes.
get some sessions.
Yes. I
Do
need
some
a session.
sessions.
Do I need a session?
Yeah, I do too. I need a couple, but we can
Yeah.
talk about that
Because
offline.
my mind is working. Because now I'm thinking of like setting boundaries. Like, should we say something about setting boundaries? Because some people see that as a bad thing, but no, it's necessary,
No,
right?
that's a part of self-care is being able to communicate what you need and being able to say what you don't need. It's learning your love languages really and being able to feel comfortable to ask for words of affirmation, being able to ask for acts of service, but also being able to say when those words of affirmation are toxic and it's toxic positivity, being able to say I appreciate that, but that's not what I need right now. So setting boundaries and being aware of how people and situations make you feel is an
Mm-hmm.
important part of self-care, and also getting out of overcoming the imposter syndrome, because sometimes we show up and we just exist in spaces
Mm-hmm.
versus we're really comfortable and we really absolutely have to be in spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Mm, mm, I'm sorry. I mean, no, I mean, there's so
Mm-hmm.
much truth to that. Just existing in spaces and just being comfortable and stepping out there and saying, "Hey, we're here. We deserve to be here too." So,
Absolutely. And your gifts deserve to be acknowledged. So it's, again, speaking from the personal experience, it is challenging, it's frightening, especially if you're an introvert like me, to kind of step out of your comfort zone, but the victory is the freedom you feel once you take those small steps and you try something different or you do something different, because that actually helps you learn to set boundaries and that helps you understand what feels good to you and what doesn't, and gives you the bravery to be able to set those boundaries and to say no, this is not for me. I need to do something else to make sure I'm okay mentally and emotionally and spiritually.
hmm
Mm-hmm.
mm.
Yeah. So I don't have any additional questions to you.
I got a lot of
Me
questions,
too.
but I'm not gonna ask them on the podcast. So I'll wait till afterwards.
Well, yeah. Well, I hope that our viewers definitely found this conversation like insightful, in understanding like self-doubt and the feeling of inadequacy, and kind of was able to have some walkaways on how to kind of improve all of that, or ways to kind of boost their self-esteem or self-confidence, I should say, to where they do, like Lisa said, they do fit in the room. There's space for you too in the room, and like she said, you've done the work and you deserve to be there. So I hope that that resonated, and I hope people heard that like loud and clear, because it was mentioned a few times, and that's for a reason, because it's important It's important for all of us to love on ourselves. It's important for us to like we said, speak kindly to
Mhm.
ourselves. Like the same way we speak to someone else, we should be having those same conversations with ourselves. So I hope that's the like the take home message um from all of this. And I want to thank Lisa
Well, thank
Mhm.
you
for
for
being
having me.
here.
Absolutely.
Like Ashley
Absolutely.
said, it's a conversation. We could have had this one all day because I think I've checked like all of the boxes that you probably mentioned today.
Yeah.
Um,
But I definitely think there's an opportunity, and I hope that we can continue to, collaborate, moving
Absolutely.
forward and just do more things together. I mean, not just to benefit us, but of course,
yeah.
women in Baltimore and beyond. So I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you
Yes.
so much. So I think we should we do our word of the day?
Sure.
Okay. So our word for today is perseverance. So perseverance, continued effort to do or achieve something despite difficulty, failure, or opposition. And coupled with that is persistence, because we know that persistence is definitely key. And I think it kind of fits with what Lisa was speaking of today, like understanding our gifts, understanding our worth, and understanding our value and how we fit in. Just being persistent and being kind of steadfast and being our authentic self. So
Yeah. Good
Yeah.
job, Tanya. Look at you.
that's the word for today,
That's the word.
perseverance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess before we close out, Lisa, do you want to share any social media handles for your business or anything?
Sure, you can reach us at Epiphany Coaching and Training LLC on Facebook and Epiphany underscore 714 on Instagram.
Okay. Perfect.
Perfect.
Yes.
So, thank you so much for tuning in today. We ask that you like, share, and comment on this podcast because we want to continue to bring you sessions that you appreciate, information that's useful. So, I thank you again. Have a good day.
Yeah. Thanks. Bye.